John Anik.
Thank you. Once upon a time, a giant ruled over the burgeoning sport of mixed martial arts. A collegiate wrestler from Syracuse who came highly decorated as a 4-time ADCC champion in submission grappling. A man who embodied the 3 words that have come to define the early days of the sport: the smashing machine. It's hard not to quantify Mark Kerr's impact on MMA. The ground rumbled under his feet wherever he went. The waves Kerr produced from Japan would hit the American shores like a tsunami in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And his story was so seismic in scope and so brutally honest within the pursuit of greatness that it inspired a documentary at the time. And despite resonance for a quarter of a century, it is not yet done being told. As many of you know, this October, the legend comes full circle in a new feature film on A24. And the only man fit for the role is here tonight to induct the man he so masterfully portrays into the pioneer wing of the UFC Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dwayne Johnson.
Wow. Woo! Yeah. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yahoo! I know. Yeah. All right. Some good weed here in Vegas tonight, I can tell. Yeah. Lively crowd. It's good to be here. What a privilege and a pleasure it is to be here. You know, by the way, I mean, how cool. I love the sport of MMA, as you guys know, and the respect I have. And coming out here, I hear my theme song. I'm like, shit, what if, you imagine if I was an MMA fighter like UFC heavyweight coming out to my music, my theme song, right? That's cool. Man. Well, I don't know about that. Give it a shot. Headline will read, Tom Aspinall knocks out The Rock in 8 seconds. But he's got some cool music. You know, they asked me, hey, do you have a speech prepared? We could put it in a teleprompter. I said, no, I'd rather just speak from the heart. I do it better that way. And especially talking about the human being that I want to talk about that I'm going to bring out here, in Mark Kerr. And, you know, I was backstage with Mark earlier, and I grabbed him by the arm. I said, man, how does this feel? How's it feel right now? Like, what's going through your body? What's happening in your DNA, in your bloodstream right now? And Mark said, he got a little emotional. He said, acceptance. And that's what this means. And it kind of moved me backstage because you think about it, it's what all of the fighters want. They want this kind of acceptance and recognition and acknowledgement. So I just want to take a moment to say to the fans, to the UFC and Dana White, thank you for holding the UFC and honoring our legends like this. Thank you so much. I had the great honor and privilege. It's hard, I don't know if words exist to tell you that I had the great honor and privilege of playing Mark Kerr in a film. It's called The Smashing Machine, after his name. And to study Mark, to become Mark, to delve even deeper in this world of MMA, especially at a time, as many of you know, Mark Kerr started his career down in Valley Tudo. And whereas you guys know, the rules were very minimal, no gloves. And if you won that night, it was a tournament, you went on to fight again that night. Mark never had a fight before. That was his first fight ever, was Valley Tudo down in Brazil. He was in the locker room, he was throwing up, he didn't want to go out. And he goes out there and he wins. He wins again, and he wins again, and he becomes the Valley Tudo champion. And of course, he goes on to have this incredible career of ups and downs and everything in between. But one thing in particular, one moment that I just want to share with you guys is, as we were making the film, And one of the fights that Mark fought, many of you would probably remember, was a pride fight against Fujita. And Fujita had Mark down. He was down on all fours, and Fujita was teeing off on Mark. Mark didn't move. He couldn't move. He was on all fours, and he was getting rocked. But on his face, you could see that Mark was still with it. He had his wits, but he was getting rocked. And before we shot that scene, I pulled Mark aside and I said, "Hey, brother, could you just talk to me a little bit about what was going through your mind at that time?" Because I'd never seen that before, where you get a fighter who's down and getting rocked, but just really unable to move. And he said, I don't know, DJ, I just couldn't move my hands. I couldn't move my arms. And I said, well, could you not have, just tapped out? And he said, well, there were 30,000 Japanese fans there that night, and I didn't want to let anybody down. And it hit me. I went, wow. You realize that in this world of MMA and in the UFC, and what these men and these women go through, here this man is, he's a smashing machine. At one time, he was one of the greatest fighters on the planet, if not the greatest fighter on the planet at that time. Him, Mark Coleman, Dan the Beast Severin, Don Fry, those guys, Kevin Randleman, those guys who were the OGs. And here this guy is telling me, I just didn't want to let anybody down. And the reason why it moved me so much, we went out and we shot that scene, but that stuck with me in here. And it moved me because it made me realize that it's in this world of MMA, that it's not about the wins, it's about the pressure to win. And this idea that Mark Kerr's on all fours, he said, yeah, I could have tapped, but I didn't want to do that. I would rather have been beaten to death than quit. And I just didn't want to let anybody down. So the reason why I want to share that with you guys is because that's the thing I think that makes this sport so incredible, is the pressure to win, the pressure to chase that greatness, the greatness that these Hall of Famers all chase. But it's that pressure to be capable. It's the pressure to provide for your family. It's the pressure to win. But in Mark Kerr's case, and I think in many fighters' case, and I think this goes for life, is the wins are great and we always chase the wins. Nobody wants to lose. But sometimes in life, the winning becomes the enemy. And the thing that really matters is actually in the loss. And that's the thing that I'm so proud about Mark for, is how he took those losses, the resilience to come back, and now, years later, he's getting ready to come out here and accept his rightful place into the Hall of Fame. And Mark's resilience and Mark's ability to fight through loss is reflective of every fighter, every woman, every man, whether fighters of the past, present, who are going to fight this weekend, and the OGs. So I give it up to Mark Kerr. It was a privilege to play him. And before we bring my brother out here, let's take a look at the smashing machine, Mark Kerr.
Long before this sport became the sport, before sanctioning, weight classes, broadcast deals, records to be broken. In fact, long before there was a UFC Hall of Fame, there was a man making a lonesome walk. Mark Kerr, a soft-spoken wrestler from Toledo, 6'1", 260 pounds, who was part of the original intrigue, finding out which style of fighting prevails over all others.
Look for that rear naked choke. Oh, there it is.
He was everything. A spectacle, a colossus, one of MMA's founding fathers, a monster who at a time when the sport was a global taboo, made his name as a kind of underground king, the smashing machine.
He's a phenomenal athlete and a terminating machine.
Who was given the distinction during a no-holds-barred Vale Tudo tournament in Brazil, and who took Japan by storm, one thundering blow at a time.
Absolute monster, brutally powerful.
He cast an original light in what was a dark origin. He predicted what the world would soon enough find out. The highs in the sport are like no other high in the world. And the other side of it too, that its lows are what make you a fighter. Mark's story is one of triumph, of pain, of loss and failure, of battling demons, of faith and belief, of giving everything to a sport that had not yet learned to live. He's become an example of its humanity.
I want to show you, the fans, that I am the most dominant fighter in the world.
In the octagon, he cut an imposing image. He was devastation personified. Yet he stands today as a pillar of strength, a human being in the extreme, fearless enough to bear it all, to let his truth help guide the sport we love.
Greg, the Ranger stopped. The Ranger goes down. One knee. That's it. One knee. 19 seconds, a KO. That was frightening.
We talk about pioneers, those who came first, the ones who showed the way. Mark Kerr made that lonesome walk so everyone else could run. To know him was to know a genuine competitor. To get the chance to play him was to understand the complex heart of a fighter.
I'm in this ring fighting for you.
And to celebrate him is the least we can do. Why does his story stand the test of time? Because in a sport that professed to be as real as it gets, the Smashing Machine, Mark Kerr came as advertised.
Mark the Smashing Machine Kerr!
Mark Kerr. Hold on. There we go. Hold on. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. It's a great song. Here we go. Here we go. Mark Kerr, on behalf of every fighter, every fan, everyone around the world who has found some sort of strength through your story, I say thank you, and we say thank you, Mark, from me to you, brother. I'm gonna tell you this when you come out. Thank you for living your life, because your life has changed mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so honored to present UFC Hall of Famer, my brother, Mark Kerr, the Smashing Machine.
Oh boy. Wow. This is like, hey. Oh, incredible. Incredible. So, to say the least, that's one hell of an introduction. That's, oh, thank you. Thank you. It's gonna take me a minute to get my nerves to calm down here. This is, I'd rather be in the ring fighting than, up here giving a speech, but I'll try to actually get through this yeah. Here, this is off script here. This is, so my experience with DJ is a couple different things. One, he's the most gracious, hardworking human being I have ever met in my entire life. He gives and cares so deeply about this whole entire process. It's changed my life. And he's taken extraordinary steps to represent everything on screen in a way that he knows his audience here. He knows you're educated. He knows you understand what you're watching. You can't fake. So he dug in and he got all the little nuggets and he understands all the psychology of it. And it's just this amazing process to have him, Emily, Benny, and the whole entire team involved in producing this incredible epic. And it's not because it's my life, it's humanity. It's the humanness of being here. And, there wasn't social media. There wasn't, I'm going to put you on IG and do this and that. Back then, for me being honest and upfront and sharing myself with the world, I was doing it genuinely because that's where I was coming from. And for him to be that vulnerable at this point in time and to give himself to the point where he gives us all a voice. He really does. So I'm going to try to get back on script here. So, just being involved in this whole process is, standing up here next to him, he gives us literally all a voice. It's one where, when you see the movie The Smashing Machine, I know you see him as The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, but I want you to see him as much more than that. I want you to see him for the vulnerability that he really lets himself be a completely different human being in this and gives us all a voice through that process. It's just incredible. It really is. And
I'm gonna punch you in the face if you don't stop talking about me. Please, this is your night. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it.
All right, so here we go. All right. So it's, I hope I can convey through this speech just a deep, profound sense of gratitude that I feel towards everyone who has helped lift me when I couldn't lift myself, while I was fighting through some of the toughest battles that I faced outside the octagon. I competed against some of the greatest men in the world while I was battling the man in the mirror. All the bouts, all the matches, and all the wars came with some amazing coaches. Back at Syracuse, my mentor for wrestling was Chris Campbell. He was an Olympic wrestler who volunteered his time at Syracuse. And his favorite saying to me was, only if you could see yourself through my eyes, then you'd understand what I'm talking about. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so tonight is for all the coaches who have unwavering belief in someone who cannot yet see the incredible person they are. That belief is a lifeline when times get tough, and times will get tough. When you face plant and have the courage to get up, dust yourself off, and get back after it, you are the ones who have paved the way for the rest of us. Thank you. And speak of coaches, there's my coach, which was El Guapo, Boss Rutan. And this is just a little footnote. Boss was the only one that they just couldn't find somebody to cast. There's only one Boss Rutan on the planet. So he obviously played himself. So, Boss was a miracle. He is a miracle to me, in a lot of different ways. He taught me how to train like a professional, fight like a professional. In California, where I would go out every weekend, and there was Marco Uaz, Pedro Izzo, Oleg Tiktarov. Each one of them gave me a different piece of the puzzle. I walked into the gym with 6 months of experience at MMA, and I walked out with 50 years of knowledge. The bonds between the fighters are unlike anything else. The first time I ever made that majestic walk down to do battle was in Brazil, and actually I took that walk 3 times that night. And so this was back when I referred to it as NHB, no holds barred. And there was no gloves. There was bare knuckle. There was headbutts, nut shots. You know, they're sticking your cuts in fingers. That night, I broke a guy's teeth out. I inoculated my hand with a strep bacteria. And when I got back to the States, I spent a week in the hospital. 3 fights one night. Yeah, some say it's barbaric. The truth is, it was awesome. You know, we are built differently, obviously. And because we're built differently, it bonds our community different. The MMA world, it bonds us all together. The third fight I had that night was against a guy named Fabio Gurgel. And he's a legend in Brazil. And the fight was violent. I maliciously attacked him with headbutts, which were legal, and punches. And I even fractured his orbital. And he wouldn't stop, and I was in absolute awe of just this fighter. And the contest was supposed to go until somebody either tapped out, got knocked out, choked out, or quit. And, the judges decided they were gonna award a victor. So they stopped the fights and they awarded me the win. And and nobody left. It was basically in the basement of a hotel. There was 600 dudes there, and all rooting for Fabio. I won the fight, and they wouldn't leave. So Fabio got on the mic, and he said, "Hey, he won the fight fair and square. Just let him leave." And at the time, there's no locker room to retreat to either. It's like I couldn't book in a locker room, lock the door, and go, "Okay, are they coming?" No. So the crazy part about that, the next day, Fabio's wife called me, and she said, "Fabio wants to have you up to the house for lunch." And literally, I'm like, "What the fuck? Did you see what I did to your husband last night? Do you know what's going on?" So I agreed. And the reality was they wanted to have me up to the house for lunch to make sure everything was okay with me. And from that moment on, I knew how I was going to carry myself in the sport. What happens in the octagon, the ring, or the cage stays there. You carry yourself outside that with dignity, class, and respect. And I did that until I didn't. I tried everything I could to learn how to love the man in the mirror. 2 UFC tournament wins, multiple fights in one night, headlined fighting in Japan in front of 60,000 people. And, I'm a kid from East Toledo. It still blows my mind. I wasn't listening to the lessons fighting was trying to teach me. My mom died September 3rd, 1996, right before I started fighting. But instead of grieving, I didn't slow down. I pushed the gas even harder. I trained harder, fought harder, partied harder. I burnt the candle at both ends. I told myself I would clean it up when it was over, but I didn't. I just burned. There's nothing like the high of being in the ring. When it's gone, you try to find highs in other ways, and to hide from the pain of my mom's death and the pain of not feeling like I was good enough, smart enough, or just enough. I tried to outrun my pain. Instead, I ran into addiction. I overdosed twice. I got so bad at one point, the doctors had said there was nothing medically they could do, that if I was going to survive, that it would be my body that had to fight it. The fighter in me was the fighter in me basically inside was fighting alone. I said, here's the reality. It's thank God he got me. Thankfully. Thank you. You know, I realized that at every fight, inside or outside the ring, you can learn something beautiful from it. And it's if you're willing to look for it. 7 years ago, on the anniversary of my mom's death, September 3rd, my son Bryce looked at me and said, "Dad, I know today's hard. I know you feel like you have to drink, but would you stop tomorrow?" I thought, yeah, you know, I'd give him another empty promise. I said, "Yeah, I'll stop tomorrow." But when the next day came, there was something that was different. I had a little bit more fight in me. I could fight 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour at a time, and I made it through the day without drinking. Because of him, because of him and so many others, my sobriety date is September 4th, and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you know, when you first get sober, it's a fight, and you know, it's a fight like Igor Volchanchin kneeing me in the head, or Mark Coleman, you know, and I fucking wrestling in the room. You know, it's tough. But recovery is like a fight. You don't win it one punch at a time. You win it second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, and day by day. 7 years later, here I am. Thanks. Recovery just didn't give me back my life, it gave me back my sanity. And with that, it gave me what I was missing most: connection. My mantra has become close, personal, intimate relationships emotionally with a human being. I used to think being a fighter was my purpose. Now I know it's my platform. My purpose is to help someone out there who feels like they can't make it 1 more second, or 1 more minute, or 1 more hour. I'm here to tell them, what a difference 1 minute makes. The Smashing Machine is about the fight that so many of us have to battle. The crazy thing about addiction is this: you think you're a burden to the world, but the truth is, the people who genuinely love you, they're right there with you. I can tell you, I can never tell y'all enough, like, how much each one of you mean to me. This night is also for all of you who did not quit on me when I quit on myself. Thanking you tonight is a small token of the profound gratitude and humility I will carry with me that I carry with me and that bonds us together. To my brother Matthew, you always listened, coached, and encouraged me to see more. To my brother Michael, you're my biggest inspiration. You're my hero. That's a tough one. To my son's mother, Dawn, thank you for being there through some of the toughest times. Our amazing son. To my son, Bryce, you're wise beyond your years. And I know no one hasn't been easy. I'll spend the rest of my life lifting you the way that you've lifted me. To my wife, Fran, your belief in me gave me back the confidence I lost. Thank you for never giving up on me. I love you. And every fighter in the crowd out there, love yourself. Be proud of the scars. Be proud of the scars. Your battles are your equity in life. I had a tough time believing in that. I don't anymore. 4 years ago, a close friend of mine, Jay Glazer, moved to Arizona. We started training together to bring back Mark Kerr. Not the Smash Machine, just Mark Kerr. That first week, I said to him, you know what my problem is? I used to be Mark Kerr. And if you know Jay, he's pretty direct, and he's immediately said, what? No, you're still Mark Kerr. Just because the gloves come off, it doesn't change who you are. And not even 20 seconds after that, a kid walked in we were at a gym, and a kid walked in the front desk and literally said, aren't you Mark Kerr? I'm a huge fan. And it just drove home the point. So I love you, Jay. I love you like a brother. This induction is for every one of us who took those 3 steps up into the octagon, the ring, or the cage. Never forget, you'll always be a fighter. Thank you to A24, to the UFC, to Dana, and to DJ for giving me the best reminder ever. Yes, damn right, I'm Mark Kerr, and now UFC Hall of Famer.